Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Welcome back to This Just In Radio Show, broadcasting on the tail end of Health 2025. Very excited to introduce my final guest from the conference, Jonathan Bush, founder and CEO of Zus Health. A big welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Hey, Justin, I'm glad I'm on here with you.
You got it, my good friend. So great to have you. So obviously you want to hear a little bit about Zus Health. Today will be a little bit just shortened just because we have a lot to cover from the conference and what's happening in healthcare in general. But before we dive in, how you been doing? Always great, I assume.
Everything's marvelous. In fact, I've picked up a new hobby. I'm running for governor of Maine. We're going to go from timber mecca to health tech mecca in 8 short years. No,
Yeah,
we are going to bring a little more American dream energy to Maine, which needs it badly. It's not as rich a state as it deserves to be. But Zus is exciting, and it's so exciting, in fact, that I can run for governor of Maine. We're kind of closing in on 10 million records in our national common patient record. It's really the only API first, fire native, always on common patient record. And it was a lot of work and a lot of money and a lot of time to build it. But now it becomes an attachment point for all longitudinal care. One of the things that I think is about to happen is just as I saw all the little fractile pieces associated with dealing with claims turn into this sector called revenue cycle management, RCM, I'm seeing the emergence of a new sector called LCM, longitudinal care management. And LCM, of course, the atomic unit is a life, whereas RCM, the atomic unit, is an encounter or a claim. And I think the money to be made going forward, it's not that you won't have to do revenue cycle management. It's not that you won't have to do risk adjustment or make your contract comply with the quality measures you agreed to. But the thing that will make you money doing good things is managing when and how and where people get care by being closely attached to lives, to patients. And so the idea of a platform that doesn't care what, this was an in-person encounter where you took your pants off in the doctor's office, and this was a tweet, or a check-in from your Aura ring, or a smart drug that sent out a signal saying, okay, he swallowed me, whatever it may be. All of these next pushes will require some common version of truth that's always on, that speaks everyone's languages, and that performs well on a myriad collection of software platforms. And I think that's very exciting to see that that's starting to happen. We've certainly been talking about it long enough.
Absolutely. No. And so that's kind of leads to my first question. You just covered it pretty well, but
I blathered on for 10 minutes before your first question.
No, I love it. You're great, Jonathan. And you absolutely will do Maine very well. I have no doubt. If anybody can do it, it's absolutely you. What progress are you most excited about seeing in the industry today?
I think the tipping point into accountable care, and I don't mean accountable care as a code word for jacking people's diagnoses so you can charge more in risk adjustment. I mean actual accountable care where you are accountable for the care across a myriad of providers. Seeing now we're well into the majority of Medicare lives are in Medicare Advantage plans, seeing the spike in the number of Medicaid lives. Frankly, tragically, the pressure on Medicaid, will have a silver lining, which is states will stop lying back and saying too complicated and lean in on managing Medicaid. I think that'll be great. And I think on the commercial side, companies like Firefly and others that are saying, hey, I'll be a 50-state virtual Kaiser for you, right. Not just a health plan, but a provider. And then they become the curator of 1 million of these specialized focused factory experience. I'm going to put all my diabetics over here. I'm going to put all my, folks that need to rehabilitate from an injury onto Sword. I'm going to put all my folks with diabetes onto Onduo or whatever it may be. That orchestrated shadow network, national health system that sits in the shadows of the big hospitals, and the big drugs.
Yep.
We've got 5,000 hospitals and about 300 drugs, that we sort of use for everything. And we're growing a whole ecosystem of narrower, more virtual, lighter lift, more targeted drugs and interventions that need to be connected.
Yep. I love it. No, you're onto something there for sure. So following that train of thought, where do you see the trends in healthcare today?
I think the big trend in healthcare is towards longitudinal care. You used to be able to say, oh yeah, we'll get it out. Having an ACO meant you having a bunch of coders go do risk adjustment on your claim file. That's not accountable. I mean, that's a thing, you don't want to be screwed if you're going to go at risk. But I think the migration into actually managing it, I was sad to see everybody was making money on that sort of wake up broke one day or wake up with no upside one day, Agilon and all those poor guys, getting clobbered in Humana. But what I like is that that's evidence that first air pocket's been pushed out of the lung, and now we're going to get into the actual managing down of hospital days per thousand and use of exorbitant drugs. And that's what's exciting is I'm seeing that happen now. I'm seeing major employers, mainstream employers say, you know what, I'm not getting rid of United, but I'm adding, Firefly. I'm adding one of these targeted, fully loaded with all of the new inventions. Remember that old line, the future's already here. It's not evenly distributed.
Right. Absolutely.
We're starting to see it get distributed.
You're right.
We're starting to see it make its way from a bunch of kooks on either coast out into mainstream America, into mainstream benefit plans, into, hospital days are going down. We're seeing hospital days for 1,000. When was the last time that happened?
Right.
Pretty exciting.
So following on that, how would you tell the average, I guess, company, CEO, even patient, how could they explore that more? How do they get engaged in that better? What questions should they ask?
There are, of course, some pretty cool, one of the accelerators of this is there's some pretty cool consumer facing for the, this is sort of a barbell thing. You've got a pocket of really, really unwell chronic disease, behavioral determinants, social determinants, patients that drive most of the cost that need this stuff. And then you've got a pocket of folks that don't need anything, but they're always wanting more, frankly, our kind, with our Oura rings and our our whoops, and I'm measuring, I had 32 more calories today than yesterday, and both groups are pulling the bulk, out of indifference and into online care. So the regulatory environment right now, did I just lose you?
No, you're here.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Disappeared from my screen. The regulatory environment favors the left side, obviously the folks that are huge drivers of cost. So, if you're a hospital and another provider, even an online provider, needs data on one of your patients today, you can get fined if you don't deliver it.
Right.
You don't get fined if, some bougie guy with an Oura ring asks for his data,
You're right.
Someday the bougie guy will get it too. Yeah. But what's exciting for me is today in the treatment use case, it's pretty much accepted that unless you have a letter from your mom, the hospitals are going to share their data. And it's happening. We're into the 50, 60 million records exchanging now a week. So the shit is flowing.
Yeah, and I'll give you props too, because I would still work with your former company, Athena, a lot, and what you built there for the ecosystem. Well, you single-handedly unleashed millions and millions and millions and millions of records and created an ecosystem of innovation in our industry. So I want to give you props because you spearheaded a lot of that. And I remember those days, 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Well, you weren't sleeping over at Greenway. You were wide awake. The Green family, those guys, you guys were terrific.
Yeah.
And I think we did make it fun to bring fun enough to be in healthcare that smart people left the important work of, porn, gambling, and social media to do other things on the internet.
That's right.
And that chapter is now normal. Talk about future's already here, not evenly distributed. Like, it's now normal for people with tech chops to be in healthcare which when we were lads,
Yep.
I mean, we're still
We're still lads. Yeah.
was sort of weird. You know,
Yep.
it was sort of the true believers who weren't that smart, you know, or sorry, it was either the true believers who were sort of quasi-socialists or people who just weren't that bright and this is the best they could do. And now it's like, no, you can be a totally selfish engineer who really just wants to do the best work and make the most value, which by the way is healthy. I'm not against that.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And still be in healthcare.
Absolutely. Yep. So in our closing minute and a half or so, what looking to the proverbial crystal ball, and I'm actually going to have you back. I want to have you back as soon as possible. We have so much to talk about. But tell me about, and looking at the proverbial crystal ball, what trend we need to be ready to navigate in the next 2 or 3 years that we may not have seen out there on the stage or talking about right now?
I think the trend that we've been talking about in this segment is this notion of always on care. Everything, initially it's a parlor trick and there's, oh, look on Duo, you know, Verily lets you do free primary care, you know, but as that sort of hits the bulk, the mass of data, everything in the stack needs to change. I mean, today we still use the word interoperability as if, you know, I've got a reality over here and you've got a reality, and I lift up a copy of my and throw it over a wall. That's not going to work, right? We're going to go from interoperable to API first, you know, common patient record, common data, where two people who don't know each other, who aren't friends, could be enemies, are going to read and write collaboratively on the same logical object, on the same records. And that is happening. That is what we've got to watch. When you build software, you know, you should build it on a common patient record today. If you have software, you should make that software be able to live on a common patient record. The notion of lobbing CCDs or faxes, you know, is coming to an end. And, you know, you don't have to go first, but you definitely don't want to be last.
Right.
And I would say in the coming year or two, that's going to be the inflection that people need to watch.
I love it. I think you're spot on. I've seen some of these companies. I've already seen some of these companies bubble up. So I know you're absolutely onto something there, Jonathan. It was great to have you on air. We will absolutely have you back. Godspeed up there. I know you're doing great work up there in the Northeast in Maine, and love what you're doing, my friend.
Well, thank you for making healthcare interesting. It's not easy.
You got it, Jonathan. We'll talk to you soon, brother. Appreciate it.
Cheers.